All right, click the link to join channel here over at SubStars. So this is kind of sad and funny. It combines peak consumerism and then the fear of missing out. And I also want to say with consumerism, something changed in the 90s. There was a resurgence of environmentalism, and then suddenly it seemed like within a couple of years, all those people who were reduce, reuse, recycle, and dragging around their Nailgene bottles, which are washable, reusable plastic bottles, which are durable and keep things out of the landfill. Suddenly people went back into plastic bottles, and it's like all that environmentalism just went right out the window. And it was a pretty easy thing to do. And then I suspect a rat with a lot of these things. If the big companies, Supersize Me, rest in peace, they realize like, oh hey, we're losing out on the consumers just filling landfill with this garbage. We have to subvert it somehow, and they use the media to do that, and suddenly everyone's drinking out of plastic bottles. They go, no, don't worry about it. We recycle the plastic. Yeah, but if you can bypass that step by just using what are those Nailgene bottles, and that'll last you 5 years. You're saving like hundreds of pounds of plastic going through the whole. What happened? Someone got subverted and corrupted. It's like Occupy Wall Street in 2012. There's a big tipping point. Honestly, there's a lot of stuff to be discussed, but it's just a blank spot on the map because YouTube doesn't want some things discussed. Weird. Anyway, so this is from That Park Place, John Trent, who had Boundary into Comics, and I don't know why he sold that out to start his own site, but he started something even better. Boundary into Comics is not woke, but it's just not what it used to be, unfortunately. So Genshin Impact and HoYoverse boycotters rage and promise to escalate efforts after companies' revenue increases nearly 10% despite their boycott. Kind of makes me wonder, so you guys know what a boycott means, right? You don't have to buy video games or comics or Amazon or Disney or any of this kind of consumer crap. I mean, including things like people boycott, like beers, packaged beers or sodas and all that. There's so many packaged things like packaged cereals and cookies and candy bars and all that garbage. Like, what happened to in the 90s? There was a saturated fat awareness and trans fats and all this stuff, and it all just seemed to go out the window, and people just dived right back into consumerism. I realize it's kind of a different topic. Anyway, so the boycotters, which really should be in quote, are not happy that this is all about the characters are too fair-skinned. You know how the Asians draw their characters? They're very, very. I guess I can show you. Hold on. Okay, I realize now I probably should have put it in landscape. They're very fair. This is how they draw them for whatever reason. You'd have to talk to the artist. This is how they picture them. I mean, they're vaguely. I mean, Japanese are into a lot of kind of weird stuff, which is another conversation, which tell people to stop playing video games and you'll get death threats, and if you dare criticize their anime, it's much the same. So the boycott, but sales increased, which that doesn't logically make sense unless none of you were boycotting, and you're kind of hoping that everyone else would boycott and you just be able to virtue signal about it on social media because you're so addicted to this garbage. Oh, is that exactly what happened? I can't stop playing my games and cooming and consuming and just consume product. And credit to Red Letter Media. They've occasionally dropped some red pills. I haven't listened to them in a few years. Honestly, I haven't listened to YouTube in a few years because it's really gay. So according to Gotcha Review, the release game Zenless Zone Zero raked in a total of almost $100 million in revenue for the month of July. Holy cow. It also brought in another $40 million from Honkai Star Rail and another almost $40 million from Genshin Impact. So the three games got about $180 million. Congratulations on your boycott. Company saw its revenues increase 9% between June and July. If you go back to May, it looks even better because it grossed $144 million, kind of pun intended, between Genshin Impact and Star Rail, and July's grosses are 23% higher than May. Despite the boycott clearly not having any effect whatsoever, they're on social media and virtue signaling and doubling down. They said they have 100,000 signatures on one of those sign-up sites, which are just peak bread and circuses, time wasters. Talk about absolutely doing nothing. Just throw your subscription in a black hole. But the 100,000 sign-ups doesn't mean anything unless you actually stop supporting the company. oh, we can't do that. We have to play this game. It's the fear of missing out. But honestly, if you just cut, like, you don't have to play any of this kind of stuff. The consumerism, I don't quite understand it. And it's like, it's not like you're, with movies at least, it's not like you're giving much up. When you look at Hollywood and you go, oh, I don't think I'm ever going to see anything in Hollywood ever again. Not because I'm sacrificing so much, it's just everything is crap. Go watch the last Indiana Jones. Go sail the high seas for that. Dial of Destiny with Goldman, who did a couple other movies. Actually, one other bomb. Kind of weird that he keeps getting stuff. If that's what current year is doing with Indiana Jones, and if that's indicative, and it is, of the rest of Hollywood, there's really not much else you need to watch. So the Boycotters go, we're just getting started with our boycott, except it's not, sales are up 10%, so you're gonna boycott it harder by continuing to buy the game, I guess, or pay for the subscription. I don't know how it works. The boycotting is not going anywhere until we achieve our goals. We'll keep escalating by doing absolutely nothing until they stop whitewashing and provide authentic representation in their game. But it's fictional characters, but they go, oh, well, they're vaguely based on, I don't know, maybe Chinese characters or something. I think it's a Chinese game, so they need to be a couple of shades darker. And don't forget to sign the petition if you hadn't. But that goes along with not playing the game, which apparently, I guess they're hoping everyone else will stop playing the game. So they go, we call on the company to stop cultural appropriation and whitewashing in their games and to commit to respectful and accurate representation of all cultures. And I'm sure the company is just laughing their asses off. And how about you guys just go after yourself? So MiHoYo, a leading game development company, has repeatedly taken inspiration from indigenous cultures without proper representation and respect. What a bunch of whiny pussies. Particularly the many characters from Sumera and Natlin, and from are all clearly white or only lightly tanned at best, with the exception of some enemy NPCs. Well, naturally, they should be darker, I'm just saying, which has sparked concerns of istophobicism among players in indigenous communities. So what is it a takeoff of? It's a fictional game. Like, indigenous, what is that? Like, who? What are you comparing it to? Cultural appropriation, that's not real. And whitewashing, whitewashing makes the game better, and I only say that because it appeals to more people, because that's a more beautiful aesthetic. Perpetuate harmful stereotypes and diminish the rich cultural heritage of indigenous communities. So these people just love these Frankfurt School buzzwords. People like what they like. They want blonde, blue-eyed, the fairest the fair, and it's not just European people who want that. It's, Asians are on board with that as well for some reason. It's like, oh, Hollywood brainwashed them. It's like, well, now you're saying the Japanese or the Chinese don't have agency. So they misrepresent cultures, but also contribute to ongoing marginalization and disrespect. None of the things they're saying mean anything. It's just they just fit in as many buzzwords as they can because they know they'll get 100,000 signatures and get a dopamine high. But the reality of the situation is that revenue has increased. So they've actually, have they been advertising for the game? Because, honestly, you look at it, you go, SJWs are pissed about something. Oh, that's probably pretty cool, right? That's a positive, and that might be the case because that's how little respect SJWs get. So they list demands to engage with indigenous cultural consultants. But, what specific group are you talking about? The Han Chinese? The Japanese? Who, isn't everyone in their country indigenous? Revise existing content to ensure accurate representation, but it's a fictional game. It doesn't actually represent anything. Commit to creating diverse and inclusive characters. Well, that's just gay as hell. No offense. And diversity and inclusion, all that Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum type of, I don't know, Rothschilds, Larry Fink type of propaganda, which is being pushed pretty hard at Disney. That's cancer. People hate diversity and they hate feminism. And, it's not just me saying this, which is, I definitely feel this way, but it doesn't sell. It doesn't connect to a wider audience. So, people don't say this. I say it, but everyone else acts in accord with their pocketbook. They just don't go pay for these things. And I list the same 20 movies over the past few years that have bombed repeatedly, and you present this information to them. Like, the feminism is a great example. The girl power movies that have just, especially recently with the Marvels Kind of the internals was, half girl power, and then Madam Web, which was a spectacular bomb. And you look at that, it's like, so some skinny girl with giant natural milkers, and she's, running around with sticky white webbing, and you couldn't make that sell. Oh, what? Maybe people are really finally done with the Charlie's Angels, Elizabeth, whatever her name, of this kind of stuff. So they have a petition on Twitter, some boycott. I think it's safe to say that we've all had enough of the erasure of our cultures and identities. But again, it's weird that you're not seeing, like, what specific culture. These are super fictionalized characters. We'll be in an account sharing how you can boycott, spread the word, anything helps. So, okay, here's how SJWs work. It's not that they just don't want to play something. It's they don't want you to watch the movie, play the video game, buy the comic, engage in the thing. And this is like where they stalk the Twitter, the YouTube channels, the Phantom Menace, Comicsgate type of channels. And it strikes me as so freaking weird. I mean, honestly, it is stalkerish behavior. And actually, a few years ago, I had a couple of weirdos, but they seem to have faded out when they realized I was, like, I think maybe just kidding or terminally weird, or I don't know. They stalk these channels, and I look at them and I'm like, why are you watching these channels? Don't you have any better use of your time? Because the Phantom Menace channels, you're talking about, that's like 10 hours a week at least that these people put their effort into. It's really there's a lot of damaged, broken people. Oh, you're like, how do you say that? You look around at America, it's like, well, our kids are being put on cross-sex hormones, puberty blockers, and their parents are then sterilizing them so the doctor can buy a new Porsche. Oh, that's pretty much evil. Yeah, I mean, if a society is at that point, well, it kind of seems like anything's on the table. Where's that going with that? So the practices misrepresent cultures, except, I mean, you can't really misrepresent something that doesn't exist if it's a fictional character. It's like what was that movie? Not the Acolyte. That big James Cameron movie with the blue aliens. They go, oh, it's vaguely indigenous. They just love that word. And you notice the bad guy, like the good character's all blue and green, and the bad guy was blonde-haired, blue-eyed dude. Like, they zoomed in on his eyes, and they did that in Rings of Power too, where the orcs now, they lightened the color of the orcs, where they used to be, I don't know, vaguely grayish. They lightened them up to where they're kind of whiter, and they made the eyes blue. It's freaking. But once you notice it, once you see it, you'll never. Go watch They Live a few times, and you see it, you'll never forget it. As what's that guy's name? Who's that American guy who was like a Hugo Boss guy in the 60s. I forget the guy's name. He always smoked a pipe. For the love of God, I can't remember. Anyway, all this stuff is, marginalization and culture, indigenous, and perpetuating colorism. It's all nonsense. As a preference, we prefer the fairest skinned characters as possible. And they start babbling. You go, yeah, but this is how we feel. And our feelings are valid. And beyond that, we're selling a product, and we're selling... Shouldn't we give people what they will pay for? This is also the distinguishment, is that a word? Between what people say they want and what they'll pay for. Because people are paying for this. And this is kind of the opposite, because they're saying, we're boycotting this, but maybe they're not really boycotting it because the sales go up. This is what people will actually pay for. It's not what people claim to want. It's what people actually want. And they don't want to overthink this stuff. And people are just tired of diversity because this is not in a vacuum. I got to be kind of careful with this concept. Things are not in a vacuum. The events of the past 5 years, people are more insular, in-group focused, and they don't want to be reminded of out-groups so much. How do I say this? They want peace and harmony. And this, I guess, is a little bit more harmonious to them. Then, God, I hope none of these other thumbnails are saying something offensive. Let's find out. Then, I'm just saying because of the events of the past few years. Anyway, so they get on Twitter and they spurg out. Can I say that? Because it's kind of, I don't know, Asperger's or something. And people go, this is not real life. Maybe this has nothing to do with istophobicism and how what colors they are and whatnot. I mean, this is not how adults behave. This is how children behave. And someone says, Please be gently reminded that the game is Genshin is a work of fiction and not related to actual people, events, groups, or organizations. We really do hope for your hope you get a life. Get outside, touch some grass. But they believe this. And I was watching some guy on YouTube. He goes around college campuses, and actually, he's the best I've seen so far. It's not like a Steven Crowder who's or a campus, the campus, I forget what it's called, people on campus or something, where those are, they antagonize people for clickbait and to just be as obnoxious as possible. This other guy is asking, I'll put his link down below, he's asking really good questions, and he's letting the kids, the students, get triggered and kind of show their ass, but the whole time he never loses his patience, and it's incredibly powerful. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, laugh at SJWs. We got to bring that back. The YouTube doesn't allow it, which is kind of its own thing. After Trump got elected, they stopped the laugh at SJW channels. They made a bunch of rules ago. Well, let's reuse content and this kind of stuff. None of it made sense because those channels were generously popular. The only thing that made sense is they didn't want popularism. They didn't. That's why they got rid of the. Is that a word? They didn't want. They got rid of the downvotes because they didn't want you to see that politicians and the news companies and this left wing line of BS was massively unpopular. And the same thing with the movies. They don't want the downvotes on a lot of this kind of globalist stuff because it gets massively downvoted. So they know that if people can see there's something wrong with the narrative, it creates an instability. And there is something wrong with the narrative. And in fact, instead of allowing these things to gently correct, it's like they're not doing the control burn. So things are getting worse and worse. And Twitter is actually going to take away the retweets and the likes are not going to be visible anymore. And it's like, that's what why would you do that? Nobody wants that. But I guess Elon Musk is being pressured to not show how unpopular some ideas are. It's like, well, you're just adding fuel to the fire, and when it eventually combusts, it's going to be like what you see in the UK now. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next episode.